Okay, I'm back. I've realised that probably the best way to do the rest of the lab is to just focus on the computer screen, and I'll tell you what's going on. If they really need to focus on the fluorescent screen again, I will divert the camera that way. However, we can search the specimen entirely in the view of that left-hand camera. In fact, I'm going to kill the live FFT, and we can just look at this in large. So you guys can see that. Yes. So we've got a scale bar there, and we can just use that to image what's going on. So now on, I'll just use the digital view to see to do everything. But I'll be working on the fluorescent screen because that's in real time, and it allows me to adjust things more accurately. And also, because of the nature of the digital camera, if I put too many electrons on the digital camera, I'll actually destroy it. I'll burn a hole in it. So I have to be very careful. I have to adjust the intensity on a regular basis so that I don't blow up the digital detector. So now I'm going to go to lower magnification, and that's where the problems can be critical. And I'm going to look for an interesting area. So now I've got it. I can put us back on the. I'm going to go to the other side of the specimen. I've just seen something quite interesting. So I'm going to go up with the viewing screen. Now you'll see the image. Okay, so that's that's very high magnification. So I'm going to have to go down with the viewing screen again, and I'm going to have to reduce magnification so that you can see what's going on sensibly, because there's a massive magnification between the viewing screen and the camera. So not everything fits. Okay, so there's a nice image of the specimen, and we're looking along a crack there. I'm slightly out of focus because, as I said before, the specimen's bent. That means not every part of the specimen is at the same height, which means that not every part of the specimen is going to be in the same plane of focus. So if I change the height, which is what I'm clicking on now, I should be able to get that. See, that's getting worse because the white bands are splitting from the dark bits. I'm going to go in the other direction. And I'm in very fine control mode because I don't want to do things too quickly. And those are now slowly collapsing, and eventually that contrast will diminish like that. Gone. Look at that. The right hand side of this crack is in focus, but the other side of the specimen's at a totally different height, so you still see a lot of contrast there. I'm going to see if I can increase, just check the number of counts. We've got, that's where the number of counts is displayed, but that's too small for you guys to be able to resolve. I'm just going to increase the intensity a little bit. Okay, so it's a little bit less noisy. You can start to see nice fine little lines in here. Okay, I think we'll take an image of this. So this is low magnification, so this is down at a micron. So we can see these lines. So this is how you'd approach doing a consultancy project for somebody. You know, you'd say, okay, well, let's have a look at the specimen, let's get a rough idea. We've looked all around the hole. We found this area here, and we can see these lines in there. Those are probably precipitates, but that's just a guess. Okay, we need to find out and collect evidence for those statements. And now, what I can do to accentuate that is to put an objective aperture in. So I'm just putting an objective aperture in without looking at the diffraction pattern, because it's going to come in hopefully on the central beam. That doesn't change things that much, but there the contrast changes quite a bit. And if I go even, okay, that's becoming a dark field image. So I'm moving the objective aperture around significantly, and you can see things flash on and off as different beams come in and out of the objective aperture. Okay, so eventually I'll recover the bright field. Oh, look at those. See that? That's a dark field. That's a dark field image of those objects. They're scattering differently to the parent material around it. So that tells us that we've got some nice plate-like precipitates in there. And of course, as I move the aperture, the contrast changes significantly. Oh, there they come back again. That's in one direction. I'm gonna have to, I can't find the central beam without looking at the diffraction pattern. So I'm gonna have to actually just lower the viewing screen for a moment and do this live, because it's very hard to see what's going on. There we go. So there's the bright field image. You'll see it in a second. I'll just lift the viewing screen again and you'll get a digital image. But aligning this aperture with all the mechanical backlash associated with adjusting the mechanics is a bit of a pest. So I'm going to change the magnification to 15,000 times now. And you should be able to see something. Okay. So I've just changed the magnification. I'm going to move the specimen a little bit. So there you go. There's that nice bit of contrast from a bend. That's what's called a bend contour, because that's where the Bragg condition is satisfied for a particular set of planes, which are now scattering out of the central beam. We've put an objective aperture around the central beam, so anything that scatters out of that direction will appear dark, including precipitates like the ones that we can see there. Okay, so why not take? Let's see if I can zoom out a little bit without hurting the detector. I'll just put the cursor over it. 6,000 counts, not too bad. And we see the edge of the. No, I think we can keep going. Okay, so that's okay. You can see the edge of the objective aperture right there in that corner. So I'm going to just align things carefully. Good. There we go. That got it. So I'll just collect this image now with 1 micron scale bar. So the record, usually we use 1 second. So I'll just acquire that. So now every time I record an image for you guys, I'm going to go absolutely silent because my voice is making things move. Okay, so that's a nice image at low magnification. Okay. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to put it on the end drive and put it on this computer, and then I'm going to share it with you guys through Moodle. So I'm going to save that as save as. Ooh, this computer is really slowing down. Users, I'm going to put under fill. And I'm going to make a new folder. New folder. MTE 4598. Mystery alloy. Mystery alloy. Okay, I'm going to create a folder. We're just going to keep it all in the one folder so that it gets less confusing. Low mag image. Low mag, so that's low magnification. BF, so it's going to be bright field image. Low mag bright field. And I'll record the magnification 6,000 times. 6,000 times. What else do you need to know? That's about it. Save. And what I'm going to do is mark an area of interest, because I think this area here could be very interesting. So I'm just going to put an annotation on there. That looks like a very good candidate area of interest. I'm going to change the background color. Set 4. I think I'll go bright red. Okay, that'll do. And then I'll save again with the annotation. But of course I'm going to convert these all into TIFFs for you so that you can view them on any platform. You don't need digital micrograph to look at these. So the next thing to do is we want to get some better idea of what these lined features are. We want to see if we can improve our resolution of them. And so I'm going to see what orientation we're at. So I'm going to image the diffraction pattern, but not on the detector, because when you form a diffraction pattern you have all the intensity going into one particular point, which means that you're going to burn the detector. So I'm going to lower the viewing screen. We can minimize this. We've got this. Let's make that small. And we can make a little gallery of images as we go along. So we've got our area of interest, and we're looking at our live change. So now I'm going to go lower the viewing screen, and I'm going to show you the viewing screen again. So that's the image that was falling on the camera. So the next trick is to remove the objective aperture altogether, and I'm going to zoom in on that area a little bit. So very little contrast, and I wonder if you can see that. I'm going to move the area of interest that was in that circle into the center of the screen. I'm just going to check whether you guys can see that. No, you can't really see that. But what you will be able to see is when I put the selected area aperture in. So that's the aperture on the side of the column, that's the lowest one down. So I'm going to so I've just put the selected area aperture in. You can definitely see that. And now what you'll see when I hit diffract is I actually have to wind out the intensity so that it's parallel. So now when I hit diffract, you'll see a diffraction pattern, but it's at very high camera length. So I'm going to reduce the camera length, and there's actually not a hell of a lot there that you can see. No, you just see a little dot. The iPhone is not good enough to pick that up. So I'm going to diverge the probe. So we're just slightly north of where we were. I'll try and align it so that we're in that area of interest. Okay, so we need to go down significantly. And there it is. And check where we are on the specimen again. So we've moved. And we need to go down again. And we've moved. So as you tilt, you also move. It's an inevitability of the Y tilt. So one of them is axial, one of them is off axial. So there we go. Tilt with the X. And now we're in that area of interest. Again. Oh, it's a lot of work actually, just to get this aligned. Okay, so we're almost there. So where are we there? Okay, the area of interest is slightly further up. I hope you can see this. And if you can't, that's a bit, some bad luck. Now, let's see where we are. Yes, right in the area of interest. Okay, right near that. But things are shifted, and that's inevitable. So, but I've gone out of focus because I've tilted, so the height has changed. So I'm going to focus, and I think you can see what's going on there. A lot of diffraction contrast because of the changes in height. I'm going a bit slowly so I can make that coarser. Oh, it's going the wrong way. And we're going to focus. That's very low contrast right there. So we want to be, yeah, right on zone there. Brilliant. And I did that really quickly because as you converge the probe, you're pumping a lot of electrons into a very small volume and you can destroy the specimen. So now that I've aligned along that particular zone axis, let's have a look at what our features look like. And I'll put the objective aperture that we had before back in. Oh, and you can see that bend contour where the Bragg condition is satisfied, going right through the area of interest now as a result of having tilted. So right, so that's nice and strong contrast there. So let's have a look at the image. We're at slightly higher magnification now, 25,000 times. I'm going to go down a bit, and we can raise the screen, have a look, but I'll first move the camera. Let's raise the viewing screen, have a look. Oh yeah, okay, so there's a lot of bend contours, and we move around a little bit. You can see all these nice long precipitates. Now much sharper. So this is slightly higher magnification. There's a lot of diffraction contrast there because of the bend contours, because precipitates in alloys tend to strain the alloy as well and distort the crystal structure around them. So what that means is that the Bragg condition is also going to change, which means that if you've got an objective aperture in, you're going to see that contrast very strongly. You probably even see it without an objective aperture. Let's remove it. It gets better. Okay, so that's without an aperture at all, but there's still a lot of diffraction contrast there, which we might be able to remove with changing the height of the specimen. See if we can get that nice and in focus. Oh no, that's gone through focus, because I can see the contrast reversing. That's as close as I'm going to reasonably be able to get it with mechanical adjustment. And so now I'm going to put the aperture back in. Let's see what we get. Ooh, nasty. And of course I can move that aperture around and that'll change things as well. Oops. I just got a dark field image there that reveals all those precipitates. Okay. So now that we've got this, we're not going to get a hell of a lot better. So I'm going to capture this image, right? So quiet. So there's, I've actually shifted the region of interest slightly. I'm going to go back to this image. It's actually over here now, down near this point. So that's good. So I'm going to save this again. Ooh, can't see what I'm doing. Control S. And then I'm going to save this one. Save as 25,000 times. No, it's only 15,000 times. 15,000 times bright field. Yeah, bright field 15,000. Because I mean, I'm not going to call it mid-mag or anything like that because you know you can tell from the magnification. So I'm going to use the same nomenclature. So I've got BF 6,000 times here. So I'm going to go BF bright field 15,000 times. And I'm going to go region of interest and save. Okay. So now I'm going to get a dark field image. Okay. What does that actually mean? We're going to look at the diffraction pattern now. So I'm going to leave this up. I'm going to lower the viewing screen. Things are going to go a little bit blank for a bit. So I've just removed the objective aperture, and there's the region of interest that we actually want is right there. Just minimised that that bit of that image. So I'm going to put another circle there. This looks like a nice area. Roughly there. That's this area here. So I'm going to have to move that with the translators into the center of the screen. So it's about there, right? So now I'm going to put a selected area aperture in, which hopefully we can just do that here. And another. Okay, so that's perfect. I'm just going to move that into that area of interest, roughly in the center, because we don't want to go off the optic axis of the microscope, otherwise we enter the lenses at an angle, which introduces all kinds of aberrations. Okay, that's pretty good. We've got a few nice precipitates in there, no objective aperture in, and I'm going to lower the screen and set up a diffraction pattern so that we can see this without blowing up the detector. So that's really quite critical. What we want to do is get it nicely set up for imaging. So we need to be on the nearest zone axis, which is where we're at. Diffraction mode. There. Just got to keep fine tilting and fine moving. So now I've done some tilting to make sure I'm on the zone axis, which you couldn't see because it would have destroyed the detector that puts the image up on the screen. And I've just gone back to the region of interest with the selected area aperture in. That's this circle that you can see, and that's the area from which the diffraction pattern is going to come. So now I must lower the viewing screen, go to diffraction mode, and make sure that in putting it on the detector, I'm not going to destroy the detector. So I'm going to go to the lowest exposure time that I can get, which is about 0.05 of a second. So it's going to hopefully work, and I might have to put the beam stop in to stop the central beam from chewing up the detector. So I've got the beam stop in, which blanks the central beam, but all the other beams are fairly bright as well. So let's see how we go. Okay, so you can see there's quite a bit of saturation here. I think we are overloaded. No, not too bad, not too bad. I might even risk taking the beam stop out. Okay, so that's the diffraction pattern. We could, in principle, we need to analyze how many counts are going in there. Statistics, minimum and maximum, 71,610 counts. That's just way too much. Okay, I'm going to lower the viewing screen, and you'll see that memory effect there from the central beam. So I have to mask the central beam because it's blasting the detector to smithereens. And there we are. But you can infer where the central beam is. I'm just going to center that diffraction pattern. That's good. That's not masking any of the other discs. Here we go. And I think that's alright. Analysis, statistics, minimum, maximum, 65,000. That's still too much. So if I go for an exposure time of 0.2 seconds, that should be alright. I'll just acquire it now. Okay, it's a lovely little diffraction pattern. Yeah, that's just a bit too much. But we've got our diffraction pattern now. And this will stop me killing it. Okay, the detector has not been affected. Very difficult to collect diffraction patterns on CCD cameras. And that in there is a central beam. Okay, so you should be able to infer it from all the other points. It's basically the crossing of vectors that you draw between the other points. So I won't mark it because that'll stop you guys from making accurate measurements. I'll see if I can just take a very quick snap at 0.1 of a second. Without the beam stop. I'll do it very quickly. And I'll lower the viewing screen so that I don't damage the detector. Still a bit of a memory effect going on there. So that's all the diffraction patterns we're going to collect in the selected area mode. So if I change the contrast using the using the histogram, you can see that there are heaps of other reflections coming up in here. Okay, so that's the central beam right there. And so we should save these. Analysis, statistics, let's see. Oh wow, still quite high. Unfortunately so. The only way we could actually deal with this a bit better is to change the camera length to being higher, which I will do, because it'll help with your measurement accuracy as well. See if we can do it sensibly now. Make this view live. Nope, that's too low. Gotta. Okay. Okay. That was right about there. Analysis, statistics, minimum, maximum. Okay, that's much better. Start a choir. And analysis, statistics, minimum, maximum. Oh, it's saner. Okay, we'll stop blasting the detector. We're fine. Didn't do anything. That's okay. All right. Now I'm going to save all of this. I'm going to move the view out of the way. So that's the area of interest right there, which I'm going to put another circle for you. It comes from this area here. So this region here, maybe we'll make these different colors. So what we'll do is, this is an idea. So go display, background, set foreground color. We'll make that green, and we'll make this green. Display. Set foreground color green. Okay, so that these two things match up approximately. And this put an annotation in here. No, it's too big. Uh-oh, come on. So what I want to do is show you how all the images are related. It's approximately right. It's just an approximation after all. So that one is red. Set foreground color red. Okay. So that's how these two images are related. So I'm going to save that. Save. Save. Selected area. Diffraction pattern. Save as SADP. 50 centimeters. Actually, it was actually a different camera length, but it doesn't matter because you can calibrate it from the vectors in the diffraction pattern. So SADP, lower camera length, green region of interest. save. So file, save as, no beam stop. No beam stop. Then this will be, that's the only, we've only collected, yep, that's fine. So we'll save this one as file, save as, higher camera length, no beam stop. So we're just going to change that bit of the file name, higher camera length, no beam stop. Okay, so we'll work off this one. Okay, I'm going to work off, I'm going to close these, but these have a lot of interesting information in them. You can see the main matrix spots, so these are due to the aluminium matrix, and these are most likely due to something else, which you should realize what that is from lectures. But I'll tell you now, it's from the precipitate phase that occurs within this alloy. Okay, the dominant precipitate phase. That's a key clue to doing this this lab. So I'm just going to close that, and we don't need this anymore. I'm going to close that. And so this is the green region of interest. I'm going to improve the contrast a little bit so we can see what's going on. It's a bit ratty, isn't it? My goodness. So I'm going to put this, I'm going to move this away. Okay, so back with our view. Now I'm going to insert an objective aperture around the central beam. And so I'm going to mark that in advance, okay? So I'm going to put an annotation here. And I'm going to try and make this a different color. And I'm going to actually try and show you in the diffraction pattern. And I'm going to change the annotation, set foreground color to yellow. Okay, so that's the first image that we're going to do. Okay, so now I've put an objective aperture, approximately of this size, so it's quite accurate, just around the central beam. And this is the image that we get. So I'm just going to record that. 1 second. I'm actually going to make that a bit longer. Less noisy. And that's our bright field image. Okay. So these precipitates are now standing out quite nicely. We can play around with the contrast and do things like that. Click on the horizontal bar, get back to where we were. I'm going to save that as I'm going to save that frame. Running out of space. Put this. I'm going to line these up a bit more here. This one is going to get called. Put that up here. I'm going to make it smaller so that we don't run out of space. So file, save as, bright field, region of interest, but I'm going to put objective aperture, position 1. And I've made a spelling mistake there. Objective aperture. Well, I'm going to make abbreviations because these file names are going to get ridiculously long. So it's going to be POS1, objective app, POS1. And I'm going to put an annotation in there, show the position 1. Okay, I'm going to save that one again. And save this one. And now I'm going to move the objective aperture. So you're not going to see an image for a little bit, but I'll move it on the diffraction pattern. Marvelous, easy to do. And I'm going to go great. So back to magnification. Out with that selected area aperture. And this is going to be lovely. And so what I've done before the big reveal is I have put the aperture right here. I've moved the objective aperture to be around that beam there. So that's going to be position 2. And this is the image of exactly the same area. I'll save that. That we're going to get. So here's the big reveal. Okay. Notice that this bit corresponds to that bit. So this part of the specimen is diffracting very strongly into that beam. Okay. So I'm going to capture that. Start acquire. And then we're going to save that. Oh, God. Oops. And file. I'm just going to move out of your way. Save as. So this is a dark field image. Dark field. 15,000 times. In the region of interest. Region of interest. Objective app pause 2. Save. So that's from there in this diffraction pattern. Okay, that's what's contributes. That's all the bright bits are the regions that contribute intensity into that reflection. So now I'm going to move to another reflection, and for that I need to lower the viewing screen. You will not see anything for a bit. I'll put the selected area aperture back in. I will diverge the beam, go to diffraction mode. Now I'm going to move that objective aperture back to diffraction, selected area aperture out. Converge the beam. And lo and behold, that one is very similar. It's actually from over here. So I put the aperture over here this time, and still that same bend contour that's giving rise to this reflection as well. That area of bend. So that's position 3. And I'm going to capture that. Start acquire. It looks slightly different. This one is going this way, this one is going like that, and that's the contributions of the two different reflections. So this area is bent in such a way that it's diffracting strongly into both of these, and most likely into that one as well. We can test that. So I'm just going to save that one as, bright field position, dark field position, blah blah blah, 3. Save. Okay. Now I'm going to put the aperture in yet another position. Okay. About this. I've just moved the aperture to this location here. Let's see what happens. Actually a slightly bigger aperture than I have shown. And I've got these reflections in here. And that is position 4, and I'm not going to do the reveal until I've marked it all up, because I think you'll like what you see. Oops. That's position 4. So now, this is what you get. Ta-da! Quite nice. So these are precipitates, very clearly. It's a dark field image. So we're basically using the diffraction pattern and the objective aperture in the diffraction pattern to filter out different directions of scattering and different crystal structures, as well as different bends, orientations of the specimen will diffract intensity into different reflections. We haven't captured it yet, so start acquire. I'm going to put that one over there and save that as that. Okay, so that should be right. So let's see if we can go for yet another orientation. One more, and that'll do. Because I've actually got enough material now to solve this problem. And so I have moved the aperture to this location. This time it's a much smaller aperture. Right there. It's really quite small. It's about this size. I'm going to move that one somewhere else, like to there, and then I'm going to put that, make sure that 4 is put all of these numbers inside the circles actually. That one will have to stay outside, but I'll put an annotation here. 5. So that's position 5. That's the view. And I just actually, before I started recording again, captured an image. So there you go. Look at those precipitates showing up really nicely in both of those images, that one as well, but possibly even more so in this one. So I'm going to save that as, I'm going to save this again, save, and then this one gets saved as position 5. Okay. Here we go. So I'm going to pause there, and when I come back after lunch, we'll do some high resolution imaging of what these precipitates look like.